Hey friends, so it's a rainy day here in the desert at Saddle Mountain, but it's also a good day because yesterday I took the iMac into an Apple store in Chandler. The Apple store in Chandler looked at it, said it definitely could use a new display. So let's just back up a little bit. I've been talking about this iMac issue, and then I just realized while I was starting to put this video together that I didn't really let you know anything about it. So back in January of last year, I bought a new iMac because the one I had before, which was a late 2009 model, didn't have all that much RAM on it, etc., etc. It was brutally slow. Editing photos was getting slow, and when it came to video, if I wanted to render a video, it was basically like, okay, well, put the video together and then render it out. And the rendering for, say, a 13 to 15 minute video could take up to 8 to 10 hours. There was times where I was like, fingers crossed that I had enough solar after editing, left it running overnight while it was rendering, and again, fingers crossed that it was finished in the morning when I got up. Most of the time I was okay. There was a few times where it was still going. But with that in mind, since I got this new one, and I did get some upgrades, it's got a faster processor, more RAM, a couple other little bells and whistles to make it run a little better. With that in mind, this one, I'll put a video, like I'll edit it to video together, 15 minutes or so. I'm starting to push the limits of it a little bit by adding like color correction, layers, and that kind of thing. Maybe playing with a little bit fancier transitions, etc., etc., just to see what I can get away with. And I click render on this one, and a 15-minute video, basically, I'll edit it before dinner. Click export and get it running, and I'll stand up, grab some carrots out of the fridge, start cutting carrots. By the time I'm done cutting my carrots, my video's done. Like literally 15-20 minutes max. So I'm very happy with the purchase. The machine itself is great. No software problems at all. But here's what we've been dealing with. Okay, so about 4 months in owning the new one, I'd shut down at night and basically put a movie on. Well, watching a movie, I started to notice this haze around the corners of the screen, and you really notice it in a darker movie. So I'll put a picture in here, and you'll notice in the corners, even with a lighted movie, that it starts to look a little almost like a tan color. And then I'll put the next picture in here. Now granted, these are phone pictures in pretty much the dark, because I don't, like I have one light on when I'm watching a movie. But here's the other picture, and you'll notice the corners, especially the bottom ones, are looking pretty gross. So that was my issue. Now, I went through the motions and contacted Apple and blah, blah, blah. But I left it a little too late because I was in Yuma at the time, this year. Like I mentioned in a couple other videos. And basically what happened was there is no authorized Apple retailer or repair facility anywhere near Yuma. The nearest one was Chula Vista, California, which was 2.5 hours drive each way. I was not driving 5 hours to get there and have the guy go, yeah, needs a new display, it'll be 5 days. Because then I'm driving all the way back to Yuma and doing that trip at least twice. So anyways, talked to a supervisor, and between me and Apple, we figured out that once I'm out over this way, because I was heading this way, we'd figure out a place to take it. And basically he recommended a few of the more eastern stores because they're less busy. But as it turns out, I set up my appointment in Chandler, and that brings you up to speed. Hey friends, so it's a rainy day here in the desert. It said it definitely could use a new display, but they had no displays in stock. So if I were to leave it at the Apple Store in Chandler, it would have taken 2 days to get a display in, and then his turnaround time, he can't guarantee anything, but worst case scenario is 4 to 5 days. So we found out that the Apple Store at the Arrowhead Mall outside of Phoenix had a display in stock. So he put my name on that, and I drove over there, dropped the Mac off, and then proceeded to wait the time. Now, like he said, they can't guarantee anything. Turnaround time can be anywhere from a day to 5 days. And the guy at the Apple Store at Arrowhead said he's pretty sure he can do it in 2. I got home, made dinner, sat down with the dog, was watching some YouTube videos, and guess what? Got a phone call. It was done. So it is now Saturday. It's raining. We're going to put the tires to a wet road test. The Apple Store in Phoenix. Here we go. Hey, handsome. Ready to go for a ride? You get to come today. Yeah. Yesterday was too hot. You had to stay here. But today's nice and cool. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Well, into Phoenix and back home to Saddle Mountain. So when we left, it was pretty rainy, pretty wet. The highway was wet. The new tires on the truck performed pretty well in the rain. No worries there. And yeah, and by the time we got there, picked up the Mac, stopped at Costco, got dog food. I think pretty much by the time I got out of Costco, it was starting to taper off as far as rain goes. And then once we started heading back, it didn't take long before we were into
broken cloud and some sunshine. So yeah, excited about that. Got solar going again. And yeah, I'm just going to go inside and put everything away, and I think maybe I'll set up a little time lapse because the clouds in the mountain look pretty cool over time. All right, I'll talk to you all soon.
So there's the video. You're all caught up now on basically what happened with the iMac. Did it deter me from Apple? No. I used to deal with this crap on a regular basis. Lots of times software and hardware issues, viruses, etc. on PCs. And I got to the point where I was buying a PC basically for my web design work and photo editing and that kind of stuff. And this is, you know, back in the day. But I was buying a PC every like 3 years. No. I was buying a PC every probably 2 years. You know, I had friends who were like, oh, I should switch to Mac. Oh, I should switch to Mac. And I withheld. I did not switch to Mac right away. And in 2013, I did. And the first thing I did was like, why didn't I do this earlier? So because I was starting to get really serious about my photography-based stuff, and I was already using Adobe for all the design stuff. I've used Photoshop for decades, that kind of thing. I decided to stay with Adobe, and another thing that people were recommending that I never used was Lightroom. Again, I installed Lightroom. I started porting all my pictures, putting them into categories, catalogs, organizing them. And again, I looked at this and went, why wasn't I doing this years ago? Because I had folders and files and like it was a shit show. And even if you do not use Lightroom to edit your photos, which now I'll get to that in a second. Even if you don't use Lightroom to edit your photos, just the organizational aspects of Lightroom make it so worth it. And then, okay, now to get to the editing part, since I've been using Lightroom, most of the stuff that I used to open up in a single file and do in Photoshop, sometimes create an action so I could reuse it on the next photo or whatever, all that stuff I'm basically doing in Lightroom at triple, quadruple, 10 times the speed. Because if you are serious about your photography and you're shooting in RAW, that's a whole other video. Check it out on YouTube. There's a million videos on why you should shoot RAW. If you're shooting RAW, just bite the bullet and check out Lightroom, because you won't be disappointed as far as just organization. I like being able to go, okay, well, I took 12 shots of this car. I like 6 of them, but I want to see what they all look like with the edits. So I'm going to edit this one, which is my favorite, and then I'm going to sync the other 11. Boom. Once one's edited, you just basically tell Lightroom to sync the next 11, and it copies all your settings right down to like if you have a dust spot and you've cloned it, like there's like a little dust spot remover. If you fix that and it's on the same spot of every photo, it will look at that too. So I'm not going to get into a whole bunch of Lightroom tutorials today, but I've kind of gone off on a tangent, but there you go. There's something, a food for thought if you're a photographer. Okay, so that was basically the iMac issue. The rest of the video tells what we're doing here in Saddle Mountain, and thank you for watching. Click the bell, click the like, and I'm out. Talk to you soon. Bye.
It's like working with a monkey.